Hi everybody, this is Warren Herman. Today what we're going to speak about, again, is vocational discernment. I think that one of the greatest mistakes we can make in vocational discernment is to place all the focus on the choice of a state in life instead of keeping the context of this choice in view. The context of the choice of a state in life is, of course, the broader Christian vocation. It's the personal love of God revealed toward the soul in all things. It's the embrace of providence. It's also that gift of the baptismal grace, which invites us into a sacramental and mystical life with God. Our thoughts about being a priest or a nun are often, they often become a kind of a thing that we focus on too much. We kind of become obsessed with this and we lose sight of the love contained in the more essential call. We lose sight of how all things provide for us as beloved sons and daughters. We lose sight of the call that is always in all Christian souls to spousal love of Christ. We forget that we are anointed as true priests, true prophets, and true kings of reality. We forget our ordinary extraordinariness and get obsessed figuring out what we need to do, either to kind of, in a way, be somebody or compensate for who we don't want to be, or we try to get our needs met and avoid pains based on whatever our wounds are in our lives. So our discernment often becomes a reaction to perceived dangers or in certain states of life, or perceived, benefits. Whether those are of puffing ourselves up or protecting ourselves from pain. That's what really happens there. And so when this happens, we have intrusive or obsessive thoughts of a certain state of life. And especially we can notice this if we're getting close to getting married. Ooh, we're thinking about being a priest. Ooh, we're getting close to being a priest. We're thinking about getting married. It's like there's all these things we don't want to be trapped. There's all these things where we're trying to get our needs met. We're trying to not be stuck. There are intrusive thoughts of the seemingly safer vocation, wherever that is for the individual. Hopefully you can hear me over the bells. But instead we are called to recognize how we are being loved by God and to respond to that love. Vocation should not be a perceived danger reaction that causes an intrusive thought based on a feared self that we don't want to be or that we need to be. It should instead be a recognized love response. It should come out of the love of God that we see, and we respond to that. So we need to have a calm and prayerful attitude. This is a true, and when we respond in love, that's more of a true vocation. And we have to remember that the way God is calling out to us in everything at this moment is richer than the imaginary state that we seem to want to pursue. And out of the perception of what he is doing in this moment will grow the life we desire. We're trying to figure out what to do in this kind of abstracted way that is not connected to the flow of life. And only when we are in touch with what he's doing here and now fully will when we get this moment right, the future will take care of itself, rather than what do I need to do, what do I need to do, what do I need to do. It's like receive God's love and respond in love every moment, and it'll become clear. We also bring to discernment the hidden fear of abandonment. This is that infantile, as the parent is the icon of God, and when we feel like we make a wrong choice, a misstep in life, we feel that visceral sense that we will be separated from the caregiver, and we end up with this fear of making a wrong choice, and this leads to a kind of black and white thinking. We can't tolerate discerning things step by step. We need to know clearly that we're on the right staircase rather than taking the thing one step at a time. We cannot enjoy the journey. We live an uneasy life as if we have not started living with God. We live in this black and white world where of a single choice of vocational focus is the whole thing, rather than a world of color, where God is calling to us and in us and through all things. And, since we do not see the colors of God's love, our response is not vibrant, but is paralyzing and painful. We obsess. Our prayer is dominated by this one question that we ask over and over again about our vocation. We desperately seek the answer, but we forget that there are different kinds of answers in life. There is an answer to a mere question, or an answer to a call of a voice that loves us. We live as if trying to answer a burning question rather than responding to the burning love of every secretly burning bush and tree on our path. A simple question has a correct answer or an incorrect one. That's where we've been living. But if someone who loves us calls us on the phone, for example, this answer has all different qualities. There are not merely correct or incorrect answers on a phone call. It's not an interrogation. It's not a survey. It's a conversation, a relationship full of all the complexity that brings. There may be some answers that we could give to the, whatever the person is saying on the phone that would be more wise or attentive or thoughtful or not so thoughtful. But this is not the black and white, right and wrong world that we fear. Of course, there is light and dark in this colorful world. There are different shades in the colors, but it's not just black and white, on and off. If you make the mistake, you're dead. The black and white world of vocational discernment misses out the colors of vocational sensitivity. And we really should say, it maybe should be a thing of like vocational responsibility and vocational sensibility should be the two things that are the ingredients of vocational discernment, because, that sensitivity to how God is calling us at every moment and nourishing us with everything is so important. And that responsibility to make a good response to that is good. So that sensitivity and responsibility are really the keys to discernment. But discernment usually just means obsession. Discernment just means asking a question over and over again. Ironically, I think we can't get to our real vocation effectively from that mostly imaginary world in which we've trapped ourselves through a fear of a misstep, living out of that early fear of abandonment, clothed in a current process of discernment. When I visited a monastery once, there was a little thing on a wall that said, what the tasks were for the day. And, I obviously didn't have to do many tasks, so I was just a visitor, just looking at the schedule. But you had to be inside the house to look at the schedule. And that's the problem. To know what we're supposed to do, we have to be inside the house of God's love. Usually we're like outside, we're kind of outside the house wondering what we should do, rather than going inside the house. Oh, now I can look at the schedule. If you're not a family member, you don't have a task. And that's the disorder. We're trying to have a task in order to be a family member. So we're messing it up. I believe that we have to rise above fears through a caring observation of them, a distancing ourselves from the dramas of discernment. Then, looking down on those movements from a peaceful perspective, we must engage prayerfully with God. Only from a place of freedom can we make true choices, and we need to make these choices from a heart place rather than a head place. And that's the problem, is that we have a head full of questions, a head full of issues, a head full of all this stuff, but instead we need to have a full heart. And the head, when we fill the heart, the head will take care of itself. And the thing is, we have to make this from a place of prayerful awareness, because this is not vocation. Usually what we think of as vocation is preoccupation. Like, the term vocation can be used as synonymous sometimes in popular speech with occupation or job. And that's the problem, is a lot of times we feel like we have a vocation when really we have a preoccupation with making the right choice. And we're just projecting all of our fear onto that one choice. So it's just a preoccupation in our minds. So that is something that is, I think, a helpful way of looking at vocation.